It kind of reminds me of, like when you go grocery shopping and you plan your meals and you eat well, or you go to the drive-thru at midnight.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are looking for a love story, not a relationship. And there's a very, very big difference. If we're looking for the love story, I'm not your girl. I'm a matchmaker, not a magician. Okay.
Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Welcome back to another episode of Couples Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean. And this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Please check us out online on our Facebook page and Instagram at Couples Synergy, or our website, couplessynergy.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. And now on to Couples Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring you our experience helping thousands of couples transform their relationships for over 20 years.
Everyone says you should work on your relationship, but nobody teaches us how. So we've created this podcast to teach people what they can do to create the relationship they've always dreamed of
with the partner they fell in love with. On today's episode, we welcome Louanne Ward. Louanne Ward is a dating coach and millionaire matchmaker out of Australia. We thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Louanne.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you.
So before we get into matchmaking and dating and everything like that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I grew up with my father, and we came from the UK into Australia when I was 5 years old, and I have three sisters. My mum left the same year. My mum left my father the same year we arrived in Australia. So we were very isolated as kids, and I remember watching the transition of my father and what he went through. Just seeing him change from this light-hearted, fun man to this, serious side of him, which, getting exposed to at such a young age, and then seeing him light up when women were around. So it was quite interesting. And I think that void of love and having a mother there to give you the nurture and, the affection and whatever, created a void, and a void creates a value, right? So I just remember when I was around about 7, I thought, I never want anyone to go without love. I'm going to do whatever I can to help people find love. And yeah, since I was 21, I've been working in the love industry.
Wow. That's very interesting. Yeah.
So is there a certification you go through? Is it just a passion or a calling?
Look, I have done a lot of work in human behavior. I am a certified matchmaker with the Matchmaking Institute in New York, actually. So we do a lot of training through there. I did a year-long course to get a master's certification, but I also am a DiMartini. I don't know whether you're familiar with Dr. DiMartini?
No, we're not familiar.
Amazing. So I really recommend that you have a look at his stuff, because the information that he, especially his work in relationships and dealing with past trauma, because I think so much of our past can affect all of our relationships and trigger our relationships moving forward. And yeah, so I've done maybe 5 years continuous study on everything from body language to the way we communicate, different aspects of human behavior. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes in, a lot of study that goes in, as you know.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. There's a lot to know about relationships, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's ever evolving, because the voids in society just keep getting further and further and further I don't know, away from human connection. There's so much technology, and it's pretty sad.
It definitely is. So you kind of have a unique perspective on dating and how, couples are finding each other in today's day and age. I was wondering if you could share some of those trends that you're seeing.
Yeah. So funny, because when I first started working in the industry, there was no computer on my desk, let alone Google. And so you go through the transition of going from one form of technology to the next. And I think that these days it's just a given that when people are single, a vast majority of them are going to turn to technology to meet somebody, to dating apps, to online dating. And it's never been easier, actually, to meet somebody. When you think about it, you can pick up your phone wherever you are, 24/7, and connect with somebody and pretty much have a date for the same night. But I think people are forgetting why they're actually doing it. Dating is almost become a recreation.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that? Like, what do you mean by they don't know why they're doing it anymore?
Okay. Well, people say, "Oh, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for. So, I'm going to meet some people, and eventually I'll meet somebody that I just, that really clicks with, and when I meet somebody that really clicks with, and I guess I'm open to a relationship." So what happens is they come out of relationships, and you would see this a lot in the mentality of getting under someone to get over someone. We've all heard of that analogy. And so what happens is, before they've healed, they start looking for the next person to make them feel better. So they start dating, and they can really lift you up and raise you up to a lot of degrees. All of a sudden someone's listening to you, and you've got something to do, and I don't know, you've got the validation, and that can be quite an attractive thing. So what happens after a while is that people are just dating without any intention. They don't know what their intention is. And I'll often speak to people in a coaching capacity, and they will literally, when you're talking about their hobbies or their interests or what they like to do, Friday night is, I've got a date with this person, and Saturday I'm catching up with this next person, and I'm catching up with this person. And you can go one weekend and have 3 or 4 different people that you're meeting.
It kind of reminds me of, like when you go grocery shopping and you plan your meals and you eat well, or you go to the drive-thru at midnight.
Yeah.
Like you're in that place where you're just desperate or longing or sad or lonely, and you're just trying to connect with anyone, as opposed to being really intentional about what you're looking for.
And I think that's such a great point, because it's really very, very obvious that people do that, but they actually don't realize that they're doing it at the time. They're trying to fill something, get something from somebody else to fill a gap inside of them, and a void inside of them.
Yeah, usually I tell the women that I work with that they're on the 1-year plan. Like once they go through a breakup, 1 year, get to know yourself, you got to heal, and you will become the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, and then you'll attract that.
Yes, and I think we all, coming out of a relationship, a wise question to ask yourself, as I am right at this moment, would I want to date me?
Yeah.
Would I date myself right here, right now? And I think that a lot of people have very well-meaning friends and parents and kids that say, "Oh, you're fabulous, you're ready, you should go and meet somebody, you deserve to have somebody really great." And that's true, but it's not the best advice that somebody can have when they've just come out of a relationship, certainly.
How does someone work with a matchmaker? Like, how does that whole process work?
When somebody comes to me, I'm going to first of all make sure that they're actually relationship ready. And one of the reasons I've been a matchmaker for nearly 3 decades, so I've actually really seen how society has changed and people's expectations in a relationship and how elevated our expectations are, even compared to 30 years ago. So they will go through quite an extensive discovery process, which normally takes me about 2 hours of one-on-one time with them. There's also about an hour of collective information prior to them coming in. And during the discovery process, I'll actually find the suitability of how ready somebody is and what their intentions are. There's a lot of people that are looking for a love story, not a relationship. And there's a very, very big difference. If we're looking for the love story, I'm not your girl. I'm a matchmaker, not a magician. Okay. So, yeah, I would go through that process. I like to coach with people before I start matchmaking them. And I put it into most of my programs. And people say, oh, no, I'm fine. I don't need that. And usually within a few weeks after a match, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I should have one of those sessions. When I actually match people, I'm going to look at a lot of different things. I'm not going to just look at, oh, look, you both like scuba diving and tennis. It's a match. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that go into it, and a lot of things that people think that they want is really not what's going to give them a complementary relationship. And a relationship, as you know, is about complementary similarities and complementary opposites. Mm-hmm. And without those, you're really not going to be able to make a relationship work. So I go through quite an extensive process. I have a client that says to me, she's been in a relationship with somebody. I put her in for about 4 years. And we celebrate every year. We just get together and have a glass of bubbles. And she says, I often tell my friends, Louanne, they should come and see you. Go tell Louanne what you want. She'll give you the exact opposite and you fall in love.
Yeah, if you keep getting what you want, then you've already been doing that. It hasn't been working.
Exactly, because people are quite infatuated with themselves. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is everything that they seem to like about themselves, they look for that mirror in a partner. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, you then have a one-sided relationship, because it's important to look at all the areas of life. And, I work with 7 areas of life and find out where people are empowered, what areas of life they're actually empowered in, and where their voids are. Because our partner is there to fill the greatest amount of our voids. And we're there to do the same for them. But if we're too much alike, one person ends up subordinating to the other person. So you have an overshadowing effect. At first, it can be really exciting, but someone will end up being suppressed. Often, I don't know, about you, but I often find that women are becoming really empowered, in the workplace and really coming into their own. And they'll say things like, oh, I just need my man to step up. I have to do everything. I have to make all the decisions. He's become weak. He's lazy. He's not, he's not pulling his weight in the relationship. And that's because if you've got one person and they're too similar and they overshadow, somebody's naturally going to take the top dog position. Mm-hmm. And this is why you don't want to have too many similarities.
And then competition happens in the relationship, and they're adversaries versus united partners.
Absolutely. And it becomes who's going to win competition. Right, well, he hasn't done that, so I'm going to not do this.
Right.
And if he wants me to do this, then he's going to need to compromise by doing this. And this starts the breakdown and resentment in a relationship.
So when you're doing these assessments, you are looking for that kind of dynamic, like how do they, where does power reside within themselves, right? Are they empowered? Do they try to take control, in their relationships, and then trying to find a match, a counterpart for that person?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And look, I can tell you so many funny little stories. About 5 weeks ago, I have a new client that I've taken on, and she tells me exactly what she's looking for in a partner. And of course, we've got to add on that tall, dark, and handsome to the list. Okay, because because we all want short, bald, and overweight. That's not what the story, fairy tales are. So she tells me, I want this guy, and he's this, and he's this, and he's this. And I've always been attracted to the darker, that dark complexion and that tall man, because I like to wear heels. And so I gave her first match, which I really, as she's sitting with me, I'm a very intuitive person, so I work a lot with my intuition, and you're going to get that after doing your job for a very long time. So I give her her first match, and she rings me and she says, we talked on the phone, we got on really well, so excited, we've got our first date planned. He sounds great, can't wait to meet him. 2 hours later, I get a text message. I don't know what makes you think that this is a match for me, but I've had a look, I looked at him on the internet, and I'm just not attracted to him, because she's Google stalked him. She's found his photo and she said, I'm not interested. Now she's cranky because she's saying, well, I told you I like the dark features, and he's not, and he's not tall enough for me. He's 5'9", she's 5'4". I think that this is okay. So anyway, she's cranky. I don't want to meet him. I'm going to pull out of the date because I just know there'll be no attraction. After the conversation I had with her, she decided to go along and meet him. The conversation went something like, well, if you want to control everything, go back online. But when you're going to pay me to do a job, let me do my job. Because matchmaking is a process. I'm only going to get it right once. This is what you paid me for, once. But to get to that one, I have to understand who you are and what you're all about on every level, not just on the physical level. Anyway, Saturday night, I get the photo of them celebrating. We're celebrating our 1 month anniversary. So the physical attraction would become such a visual society. And physical attraction is important. I'm not negating that there has to be a level of attraction, but attraction builds very, very differently than just a first glance. And so I'm trying to break people's perceptions on what keeps a relationship together.
Yeah, they limit themselves before they even have the door open. And you can be a very attractive person and not a really good mate. And you can be a really good mate and not be so attractive. And, it's like those deposits into the relationship make someone more attractive. And then you get that bonding in your brain, right? The dopamine hits associated with that person, and you start that connection. And that's really changes everything. And, when all you have is the way someone looks, you have no information. Yeah.
Well, looks don't keep you together.
No.
Looks are not.
No, all the Hollywood people are all divorced.
Because they don't keep you together. They're not going to sustain a relationship. And I think, and I'm sure that you've experienced it as well, that we live in a very androgynous society. There's no specific need in relationships, and without a need, you're not going to go into the relationship. And I think that one of the greatest misconceptions that women are bringing to the table these days and saying, well, I don't need a man, I've got a good job, I can support myself, I can do everything I need to do, so I don't need a man. But I'd like a man, I'd want a man, but without a need, where's he going to fit?
Right.
And when we've eaten our breakfast, we don't need food for another few hours, and potentially if we didn't eat for another few days would be okay, but eventually we're going to need that food. So our need levels kind of change, but without need, there's no desire for a man to do anything for you. So, and because we have so much masculine and feminine energy these days, and that's not a gender. It's got nothing to do with gender, but women are very much in their masculine energy because you're going out to work, you're making decisions, you're solving problems, you're learning, you're growing, you're then oftentimes coming home, looking after the house, bringing up the kids, doing the meals, keeping everything together. And you have to have high testosterone levels to be able to do that.
Right.
And so you're constantly in this masculine state. If you don't know how to get back into the feminine, then you stay in that state, and the point of attraction, even though you might look beautiful, the point of attraction is still very masculine energy. So you're going to attract a mate that has lower
Yeah.
sort of testosterone levels.
David Deida, he wrote a book called The Way of the Superior Man, and he talks about that masculine and feminine energy and how there has to be a polarity within a relationship. That's where the spark and the passion comes from. And if both people are more masculine, then there's no movement, there's no energy. And if they're both feminine, same thing, right? And so it's that dance between the two energies that give the life of that relationship, which is exactly what you're talking about. And I think that is something you can't get from looking at a Tinder profile, right? You have to be in the same room with the person and to feel, attraction is more than just looks. It's about that energy that we feel when we are near that person.
Yes, exactly. And this is why we call it chemistry as well, because, when you're actually attracted to somebody and you get the rewards, you get the dopamine hit. What happens is people giving those rewards way too quickly.
Yeah.
As well. So there's no motivation to get to know the person because everybody's just looking for that next hit. People don't date very well. People don't know how to connect very well. They don't know how to have conversations in each other's values and to try and identify what someone's values might be. And I think also we talk about values a lot of times as being things that are really actually human traits of kindness and integrity and being intelligent. There are a lot of human traits, but our values are based on how we live our life, how we treat people, where do we spend our time, our money, our energy, what do we think about, dream about. These are what represents our values. And people can have a conversation on a date, and if they're not together for around about 2 hours, they're not going to connect. And this is why coffee dates, the whole coffee date revolution, I'm such a, in a fight against, don't do the coffee date.
It's like already having one foot out the door.
Yeah. It's already actually saying to the person, I don't think it's going to work. You've got 20 minutes to impress me.
Right.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure. And
you're not having fun.
Yeah.
And you're not having a new experience that involves all your senses.
Exactly. There's no shared experience.
Yeah.
And that is what bonds us together, is to have a shared experience, to enjoy something and to have a motivation to want to do it again.
Absolutely.
So you talked about your intuition, which of course, right? That's, you have to be able to read into what we can't really see on a piece of paper. Is there some science behind some of the work you do?
Absolutely. So I'll use a collection of 3, 4, 5 different things. And it's a really powerful combination to really help people. Because first of all, you've got their perception of themselves. Okay, so they're going to give me quite an extensive perception of themselves. I'm then going to talk to them and uncover a lot of things. And so while that process is happening, people will start popping into my mind. I always listen to those. That's why I don't read someone's details before they come in. I'll say to them, so did you have a chance to do your profile? They're like, yeah. I say, oh, good, I haven't read it. You haven't read it? It took me an hour. So I don't read it purposely because then I've got to miss conception, a preconceived idea of who they are and what they're all about. So during that process of talking to them, if people don't pop into my mind for them, I'm going to be reluctant to take them on as a client, because that's usually my gut telling me there's some sort of red flag zone in here for some reason. And whenever I do take someone on, when I haven't got that instant, this person, I'm always proved right. Then I'm going to actually research. I do a lot of research as well. So the people that I've initially connected with in my mind, I'm going to actually then go and research and think, does this make sense? Do they have enough complementary similarities and enough complementary opposites? Does it make sense? Have I created a situation that if they were motivated enough to want to get to know each other, could this relationship work? And that would look like things like if he doesn't want to have children and she wanted to have children, well, that's too much of a block. It's not going to work. Do you have really different religious beliefs and backgrounds? Because that's going to be a bit of a block. So there is going to be common sense in a matchmaking process as well. And then I've got a great tool also, because I have feedback from clients. So it's like every person comes with references. If you've had a date with somebody and the feedback I collect from people is a lot after each date, and it will be things like, okay, where did you go? When did you meet? Who paid for the date? Are you having a second date? If not, why not? Because I really am an advocate for the second date being more important than the first. So there better be a good reason that you're not having a second date, because you agreed to this. And then I'm going to ask, what did you identify as somebody's, three best qualities? What do you believe are their three best qualities? Because if they can't identify redeemable features in somebody else, they're really suffering themselves. Because we know that the person in front of us is only a reflection of ourselves in all cases, all the things we like about ourselves and the things we don't like about ourselves. Then I will then break it down and start looking at, how did you find this person's personality? How did you find the ease of conversation? How did you find their manners? How did you find the way they dressed? Was it suitable in the context of the date? If you're going to go in flip-flops, we would call them thongs, but if you go in flip-flops to a date, I'm not going to be happy, unless it was a hot day and you were having lunch and then taking a walk on the beach. I'm okay with that. So when you get the feedback, the first bit of feedback you get on someone, you say, okay. But after a while, you start making the links, because you can look at a number of different people's feedbacks into that person. And so you will start seeing where the strengths and weaknesses are, and start working with them to bring their best version of themselves to the table.
You must have a very large database to draw from of people that you're thinking about.
The funny thing is that I changed the model of my business several years ago. We're just becoming so burnt out with people's expectations. And it doesn't matter what someone paid you, whether they've paid you this much or whether they've paid you this much. They all have the expectation that, well, I've paid you, now it's your problem, you find me the person. And if you don't, you must be bad at your job, not that there's something that I'm not doing. And so I changed my business model to only work with people that have a high value in relationships. And the millionaire matchmaker label is more about me wanting to make you feel like $1 million. Not that you need to be a millionaire to use my service, okay? I'll work with anybody that has that desire to actually show up as the best version of themselves, to have a relationship. So I have my database, and I'm very fortunate because I've been in the industry for a very long time. So when I go to match somebody, I will have my active clients, and I will match an active client with an active client. And that's the first bit of my database that I will go into. But then I have an affiliate database as well of people that I've worked with, for a very long time. So when I'm going to look for a match for somebody, I'm going to go into my current members. I'm going to go into clients that might have been a member. I matched somebody recently who I had already put in a relationship. They had a relationship for 14 years and that relationship ended. And what's he going to do? Why would I go somewhere else? I'm going to come back. So then I'll work with my network of people as well. So Matchmaker as a headhunter, it's very, very different than a dating agency platform who just relies on their database. I don't just rely on my database. I rely on my networks.
Do you think there's a law of attraction where they both are attracted to working with you and therefore they come to you around the same time and they couldn't find each other a different way?
Jane, I love that you say that. I mean, when we talk about the law of attraction, a lot of people think this is woo-woo or whatever. But I say to people, if your intention is to get into a relationship and his intention or her intention is to get into a relationship, why wouldn't it work?
Right. Yeah.
Because if you actually have an intention to get into a relationship, I will put you in a relationship. But if you want a love story, if you're looking for the Notebook, I'm all out of that. And if you're looking for a fantasy of being swept off to, some fairy tale, I'm all out of that as well. So, but if you have a reality of what a relationship really looks like, I'll find it for you. And I don't know how long that will take. I don't know what the journey is. I don't know what lessons you need to learn. I don't know what is still undone there for you. But if you stay with it, you're going to find somebody.
So you don't work with people that would be on the show The Bachelor then?
Well, don't get me started on that. Yeah, so because I have worked with somebody who was on Married at First Sight.
Yeah, don't get us started on that.
You said the Notebook, and I'm like, yeah, you have to write your notebook. You don't go live someone else's notebook, right? You have.
And what it's true, because what cracks me up about that as well is, I'm pretty sure that they had these, rocky ups and downs in there of trials and tribulations, which we have.
Have you heard of the Heart Math Institute?
No, I have not.
So it's a place that I think it's in California where they literally track your heart and they find where the wisdom is in your heart. And they do like biofeedback and other kinds of things. And that institute says that it takes 180 seconds for you to know if that's your person. And we interview couples on our podcast all the time, and we hear it over and over again. When did you know this was your person? They're like, right away. And I wonder if that's true for you, that when you're sitting there across from someone, oh, that's your person.
Yes, and a lot of time it is so much like that, but people are so blocked.
Yeah.
They can't see their person. You can only have your point of attraction from whatever vibration that you happen to be on in any period of time. So your person can be in front of you and you won't be able to connect with them because you're on different frequencies altogether. Yeah. And we can't get on the same frequency with somebody. We can't hear and see something properly if we're on a completely different frequency. What people put into their mind of what they want, it's their head that messes them up, not their heart. The heart never gets it wrong.
Yeah, and all of the messages that we get constantly, instead of intuitively, you get them from ads and stuff like that. And it's not real people in a normal community that make good sense. It's like you said, just a snapshot vision of something, and it doesn't work. There's no substance.
I imagine that's where the pre-coaching comes into play, is helping them stop blocking themselves.
Exactly. And to say, figure out what you want. If you want an actual relationship, you can have somebody that's really good looking, because this is how we're going to go through our search image. You know, we have something that we put in our mind of, this is what I want. And we're going to go through this different level of tiers, if you like. First of all, we want to be attracted to the person. So if we find the person appealing physically, we're then going to want to make sure that we have some sort of intellectual connection with them, that we can talk to them and have some banter. We are then going to look at social status. Unfortunately, this is so far up the scale of what we are pitching for a partner for ourselves. And we will look at, is this person going to bring me more pain or pleasure? Is this person going to be accepted by my friends? Can they help my social status, or are they going to lower my social status? Then we're going to look for things like, do we have some sort of similarity? Do we have some goals and plans for the future? Does this person like me? Are they going to have my back? Do we have that heart connection? But what will happen is most people go into relationships based on the first three without really considering the chemistry and I'm not talking about the physical chemistry, I'm talking about the heart chemistry, the being able to walk through life together and have each other's back and have the same sort of beliefs about the way you treat people and your mission. They're the things that keep relationships together. Those sort of compatibilities keep relationships together. The looks won't, the status won't, just having a good conversation with the person and being able to banter won't. They're helpful to get you connected, to get you attracted, but they're not things that keep a relationship bound. And so coaching with people, and I think that every person, and you're going to have to agree with this one, that they do the coaching at the wrong end of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
When it starts falling apart, you should be coaching the whole way through your relationship. Tune-ups, little mini tune-ups all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was wondering, do you run into different challenges helping a single person find a mate versus someone who has divorced or a relationship has fallen apart? Now they're trying to get back into the dating world.
Gosh, that's a really interesting question. It's a great question. If single people, we'll talk about in the 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because this is arguably, in my perception, the most important decade for dating. If you do not get this decade right, it's going to shape the rest of your life.
Mm.
In a very significant way, because if you want to have children, there's biological windows of opportunity to have children. And women, yes, we can have children without a man, and so a lot of women are going down that road. But if you want to have that partnership and build that sort of life together, you need to be able to connect with somebody in your 20s or 30s to be able to do that. And for a lot of successful people, so they've gone to school and they've done college, university, they've got these careers, they've put all of their focus and energy into their career, and they've never really spent that time understanding themselves. It's all been about that fight. And all of a sudden they'll get to 35, 36, 37 and say, oh, wow, I need to find a partner. Are they harder? In a lot of ways, yes, it's going to be harder. Because there's this sense of, I don't like to use the word desperation, but there's a sense of different level of investment and importance. And so what will happen is you'll meet somebody and think, well, okay, so what do you want? What's going to happen? Are you going to, how many babies do you want to have? And there's no fun. And so there's quite this need to try to check off all the boxes before you've even had a chance to really connect and see where this person would be right for you. So in a lot of ways, yes, that, and especially if these people have dated a lot, if they've been online and they go, oh, well, I've met 127 people and wow. I don't work on the theory of numbers. I work on the exact opposite. It usually takes me about 8 matches to get somebody into a relationship. So that's my law of averages. Somebody that's already been in a relationship and they've come out of that, if they're prepared to do the work to heal of whatever, and then you must find it. Dr. A, do you find that when somebody has holding on to a story in a relationship, my ex-partner did X, Y, Z, and they're holding on to that trauma, I call it trauma drama, and once somebody gets like that, it's very, very hard to break that. So if they're not prepared to break that trauma, it's almost impossible to get them into a relationship.
Yeah, we always, when we're working with a couple, we're like, our main goal is not your relationship. It's that you become whole and healthy people and learn what you're supposed to learn from each other. Otherwise, you're just going to repeat it somewhere else if you break up.
That's a great philosophy because it's absolutely true. Your partner's not there, for you to feel better. Your responsibility is to feel better. You be whole, you be complete. And don't make it the partner's responsibility to do or not do something because that's been needy. And I think,
no one's going to take care of you if you refuse to take care of you. Do you notice a difference? You've been doing this a very long time in the way that society is shaping human beings. So, one of the things that we see a lot is that, when we were kids, we went outside and played and we had to work on relationships. And when we got something, it was really special. And now they say like kids collect toys instead of play with toys. And all of their play dates, their moms are there or a coach or an adult. And the kids aren't figuring it out amongst each other. So why in their 20s or 30s would they know how to do something without someone watching?
Yes, such a brilliant point, and it is so true. We are not being resilient enough to solve our own.
Yes.
Our own, I don't like to say problems, our own challenges. And we've all seen it. You see a kid that falls off their bike and they kind of get up and then they look around to see who's looking at them falling off the bike. And as soon as they see that mum's looking, then they'll cry.
Right.
They were fine until they had that support. There's too much support, and it makes people juvenilely dependent. And I did an article a few years ago, actually. I should send it to you. Why your parents are to blame for you being single. And because parents are living very vicariously through their children's lives as well. So everything that they feel that they missed out on, they're giving to these kids.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so beautiful. You're a princess. You deserve a man that's going to, treat you like this. And no one's going to love you as much as your daddy loves you. And unfortunately, you put this into a child's mind. As they grow up, they think that they are a princess. Now, in their exterior world, they don't, but in their interior world, they do. Hang on a minute. This is how my daddy treated me. He put me on a pedestal. He did this. He always did this. He always did that. And he never yelled at me. And they've got a fantasy that they've created around what they think that they deserve, rather than what the reality is of a relationship. So, and our parents are giving us so much: ballet lessons, swimming lessons, dancing lessons, soccer, football. It's out of control.
One of the things that, we always talk about is relationships. that are fulfilling are about what you can give, not what you can get. And I see all these families, and when it's Christmas, I'm like, do the children give out gifts? And they're like, oh no, we just give everything to the kids. Like, you don't teach them how to give. You don't teach them what they have to offer.
And so when we see couples coming in and they're struggling with that competition of, what can I take from the relationship? We are having to almost reparent them and teach them how to give back to their partner, how to show consideration, right? And that giver's gain kind of attitude. And that's it. It's all reparenting from our perspective at this point.
Yeah, and another great point, because how can love ever be missing? When people say, well, I'm lonely, I don't have anybody, I've got nobody to love. I'm like, well, love's a giving thing. You get to give it to whoever you want. If you're dependent on getting it back in order for you to feel good, well, that's a completely different story altogether. But the narrative you need to have is that how can love be missing? It is yours to give. Give it to whoever you want, whenever you want. Excuse me.
So
it can't ever be.
Do you work with people only in person, or do you work virtually?
Oh, no, I work virtually as well.
So you can match up anywhere.
I can. So we in the Matchmaking Institute, I mean, it's tricky at the moment because we can't travel. We're in a very different world right now. But I have, in the Matchmaking Institute, what we do is we all work and collaborate together to have the biggest offline database. So I had somebody reach out to me in the UK yesterday, and she has a client that lives in Melbourne, and she's like, are you able to help me find someone for my client in Melbourne? So I'll take on that. We collaborate because it's all about spreading the love.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
To get a hold of me, you can getting onto my social handles, my Twitter, Facebook. I have a great Facebook group actually called She Said, He Said. And, I'll put tricky questions up, just questions that come up in day-to-day life. And I'll just get the perspective of male and female so that they can see that we're not against each other. Your opinions and your views are not male against female. Men feel the same way, women feel the same way. It's against different things. So connecting with me through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I recommend that. It's the easiest way.
And what's the handle and Twitter and Facebook?
So Twitter is Louanne Ward _.
Okay.
Facebook, just Louanne Ward, and the same with Instagram, but all lowercase. So if you put Louanne Ward into Google, you're going to get onto my websites. I've got a couple of different websites on my email list, and I send out a lot of great content around dating and relationships. So love to share that.
Awesome. We'll put those links in the show notes too after the editing. And
beautiful.
What would you say to someone considering using a matchmaker?
Let the matchmaker do the job. If you're going to consider, using a matchmaker, they've got experience. They know, they understand. They're on your side. They want you to find relationships. So just breathe and realize that you're coming into your feminine energy of receiving, okay? Because you have to be able to receive, and you've got to be able to give equally. So give up a little bit of the control, put your trust into the matchmaker, and keep your heart open.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Louanne, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. This has been very enlightening.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And, I'd love to invite you back onto my podcast, which I've just started the first few episodes. So I'm going to enjoy having you guys join me as well.
Great. That's awesome. That'd be fun. Yeah. So we want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today and for listening to Couple Synergy. Our passion is in helping couples have happy and healthy relationships, and this podcast gives us a fun way of bringing our knowledge and expertise to you, our listeners. For all of you listening, please subscribe to our podcast and please leave us a review. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, please email us at contact@couplessynergy.com. For more information about Couples Synergy and our programs such as Relationship 101, the Couples Home Study course, the Couples Weekend Intensive, and our premier program called Couple to Couple, look us up online at couplessynergy.com.
And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please download it and share it. And thank you for listening.
And until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.